him before.
He is on your right. Matthew Ling is on your left. It's Jeskai Eldrazi against Miracles here in round number 2. Might be in for a little bit of a longer one here, so stick and stay as we watch CVM, a player who has just won an Open recently with White-Red Vehicle, so congratulations to him on that Open win in Indianapolis a couple of weekends ago. Looking to get another one here on the SCG Tour. It's an island at the top. The terms of engagement have been announced very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a thing with Miracles players where they all have to play white lands because of Joe Lissette? How does this work?
I don't know where these types of things come from. You can make the argument that if you're fetching, it makes it easier to find the cards that you want to find.
I can make arguments for lots of things at random if I'd like.
Exactly. That's where I was kind of going with that. You can try to wash this with some sort of logic or reason, but really, you're just making your deck look uglier.
And Chalice of the Void off of an Ancient Tomb is going to bring Chris down to 18. Chalice has resolved. So in this matchup, Chalice of the Void is going to counter Sensei's Divining Top, Ponder Brainstorm, Swords to Plowshares in game number 1. Potentially sideboard cards as well, but we are not there yet, so we will hold off on talking about those. And you already see a card here as Ling does spin the top in Brainstorm that the Chalice has negated.
Yeah. Yeah, you rattled off those cards pretty quick, but it's actually a pretty significant portion of the Miracles deck, and they're very important cards. One of the reasons that the Miracles deck is so good is because it just so efficiently and seamlessly just goes through its deck to find the cards that it really wants.
A Tundra on a passing of the turn there from Ling over to VanMeter, who has another copy of Ancient Tomb in hand, so this could be a very painful game for Chris, but it looks like he might also have a copy of Eldrazi Temple.
Painful is fine from the Eldrazi player. You're playing against Miracles. The key is to close out the game before they really take control, so you're not worried about your life total.
Eldrazi Displacer. Ether Hub going to do a little bit of an assist here.
Wow.
I didn't expect that one from
Wow.
Kaladesh.
Ether Hub.
Yeah. Get a little energy, take the energy away. Displacer is in. This might be a spin in response to the Displacer. We'll find out exactly where we are in the turn. Not sure if the Displacer has resolved just yet.
What was Ether Hub called the first time it was printed?
Really? Tendo Icebridge, really?
Tendo Icebridge.
If you're going to come with questions,
no, I know you have this.
You're going to have to bring your A game, Greg.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure you know. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
No, you are great with all the cards, all the names. This morning I was like, I don't remember what was it, Cauldron of Blood and Wine does? And you were just like, yeah, I know what that card is.
Yeah, I rattled it off, and I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, okay.
I don't need to demonstrate that I knew what that card did a second time. You can bring that up whenever. Because no one knows what that card is. Here's an Eldrazi.
I don't even know if I have the name right. Just make up cards.
Displacer is going to come across here for 3. Ling is going to fall down to 17. CDM's got Eldrazi Temple, which means now he has an Eldrazi Mimic. Cauldron of Blood and Wine may not
Blood
be
and Iron? I don't know, Ice Age staple.
Let's see,
and by staple, I mean.
Yeah, I see we're using.
Oh, there it is.
How about Wine of Blood and Iron?
Nope, that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Saviors of Kamigawa.
No, there was definitely a Cauldron at some point.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to find out more during the break.
I mean, you told me what it did this morning.
I did. I told you I made up something. So you would let me go back to sleep, which you did not let me do. How about Bubbling Cauldron? Is that it?
We're not getting closer.
That's not it? Okay, we're actually getting further away. Okay, that's good.
I like how we're just giving the engineers a workout over there. Just find this obscure card with a name that I don't even know.
Yeah, you're making their job very easy.
Professionals, that's what we are.
The Mimic is in as we head back over to Matthew Ling. He picks up a copy of a Flooded Strand. You see his hand of Jace Force of Will. He's also got a Terminus over there. The difficult thing right now here for Ling is the inability to put Terminus really back on top of his deck. That's what Brainstorm is so good for.
Yep, and he's got another top in his hand that he can't play. It's a pretty tough spot for him here.
VanMeter will draw a card. It's a copy of Endless One.
And you see Matt could have deployed a Jace that turn, but he's so afraid of playing his only blue card.
Yeah, for Force of Will.
Because he can't let a fatty come down on the board. It makes the Mimic huge, and then the fatty's on the board.
Ancient Tomb is the land here for VanMeter. He's going to take 2, going to tap a bunch of mana. This is an Endless One.
Boom, 5/5.
That's going to resolve. Trigger for the Mimic is going to turn into a 5/5. And we are going to see an attack from VanMeter. We are going to see a spinning of the top here from Ling. Somebody needs a Terminus. He has not found one yet. It's a Force of Will, a Brainstorm, and a Tundra.
Yeah, this is just a tough spot for Matt.
Ling is going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand. He'll fall down to 16. This will allow him to search up a land. He's going to go with another Tundra, it appears. No. Yes, Tundra it is. He'll shuffle. He'll likely respin the top and hope to find a Terminus on top, but I am in agreement with you. This is not a great spot.
Well, he is in a spot. Next turn, he can deploy the Jace. He can use the Brainstorm ability to put the Terminus back on top of his deck. And then on the opponent's turn, he can use his top to draw the Terminus and cast it. So
well, he found a Terminus this time, along with a Predict and a Counter spell. So, all right.
Those are not 1-mana spells.
He can fight back a little bit here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that once he cashes in,
the top,
that's gone for
yep,
good.
That's the end of the road.
So here's Terminus. Now, VanMeter, I believe, has a copy of Warping Whale. We'll take a look at this really quick for those of you who are unaware of what Warping Whale is going to attempt to do. One of its modes is counter a sorcery. Its other modes are exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. Hello, Deathrite Shaman. And then you can put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion onto the battlefield, which you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. Warping Whale will be countered via Force of Will, removing Jace the Mind Sculptor. So the creatures are on the bottom of VanMeter's deck. It's an exchange that you would think is pretty good for Matt, but in reality, he's drawing a top which he can't cast.
Yep.
And his hand's not particularly good.
Yeah, he lost his Jace. He does have the Predict to get the counterspell off the top to churn through his deck a little bit faster. But this is kind of a precarious position.
Chris will play a Corrupted Crossroads. We'll take a look at that as well, as here is an Eldrazi Displacer. And VanMeter will just pass the turn back. So for Corrupted Crossroads, this is a card that actually doesn't really see much play in Modern for the Eldrazi and didn't really see any play in Standard. But what you could do with this is you could pay a life and add 1 mana of any color to play a Devoid spell, which allowed him to play the Eldrazi Displacer, given that it does have Devoid. So he's able to play those colored spells that are not actually colored spells because of Devoid, but you get what I'm saying. As here's another one. That'll be Chris's turn. He says, I got no cards left. This is the best I can do. You might see a counter spell here.
Yeah, Matt has to preserve his life total. You know, he's got to draw a couple more lands so he can start hard casting things like Terminus. I'm a little surprised that he didn't order those cards differently so you could just predict away the counter spell, draw 2 more cards, and start churning through his deck faster.
And you see his hand right now. It Entreat the Angels of Terminus, 2 tops, which would be countered via Chalice, and then a Predict. So this Predict's going to have to be pretty good.
Yeah, it just seems so important for him to make his land drops each turn that I would think that'd be the top priority here.
Across comes the Displacer. Ling is down to 9. In a turn, he will play a Predict. We'll see who he's going to target and what he's going to name. This is always a fun little game. Do you know who the master of the Predict game is? Adam Prozac. He targeted himself. He named Island.
Okay.
It was a Brainstorm that he found, but I think the draw off of Predict was a Flooded Strand. Now here's a Ponder, which is no good.
Yeah, and you know, I think I would have cast the Predict just on my main phase.
Just in a land drop.
Just make that land drop on that turn. Like I said, he's building towards these more expensive spells. He has the Terminus, which is good. That's important, but he's got to have 6 mana to cast it. He's got an Entreat the Angels, which could be very strong. Chris has really done a number to his own life total in this game, so just making 2 Angels could just have a huge impact, but you need the lands to be able to do that.
So for a moment, I was a big fan of the Entreat the Angels plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I don't really know what Chris can do about it. Because I think of Displacer in regards of...
Oh, the Displacer is very good against Angels, yes.
So the Displacer is actually solving the Entreat the Angels problem all by itself. So in reality, Matthew actually has to play a Terminus to deal with this Displacer because he can't swords it.
Yep.
And that means he's in some real trouble. Now, Thought-Knot Seer is not making things any easier. Going to take a look at Ling's hand. You see the Ponder, the 2 tops. Those are no good. The Terminus is actually really good. The Entreat the Angels are pretty poor, so I think, for me, it's a pretty easy choice on what to take.
Yeah, goodbye top.
Terminus will be exiled via Thought-Knot Seer. Here is an Obligator, beatdowns, a whole bunch of them, and that's going to do it for this particular game.
And Chris used the Obligator to obligate his own Thought-Knot Seer, giving it haste for the turn so he could just finish off the game.
Look at the Jeskai portion of this deck. Displacer, fantastic. Obligator, helping to attack for the win. Typically a card that's not really good against Miracles, obviously, but got some nice work done there. So Chris VanMeter is going to win game number 1 here over Matthew Ling. Jeskai Eldrazi up a game over Miracles, and now we take a look at the sideboards. That's where we're going to go. We're going to start with the Miracle player. That is Matthew Ling, who's got 3 Pyroblast, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Monetary Mentor, 2 Containment Priest, and a bunch of 1-ofs here in Surgical Attraction, Vendilion Click, Kozilek's Return, and From the Ashes.
From the Ashes?
Yes.
That's a rarely seen one. I expect the Monastery Mentors to come in. It's something that Chris can't fight against that effectively. If you're making 1, 2, 3 little tokens each turn, it's not like you can be getting rid of them via the Displacer, so that's a good card here. I don't know if he wants a card like Wear and Tear. If a Chalice or a Thorn comes down, the Wear and Tear is not great at stopping that anyway. So probably not a whole lot of changes, but those Monastery Mentors should be quite good.
From the Ashes, a card that might come into this matchup. We'll take a look at that after we take a look at CVM sideboard so we can bring up the full image of the card. But very quickly for Chris VanMeter, 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Drowner of Hope, 2 All Is Dust, along with an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, another copy of Warping Whale, a Relic of Progenitus, a Batterskull, a Thorn of Amethyst, and a Pithing Needle. What do we like here against the Miracle deck?
Well, the Pithing Needle is typically a good card against the Miracles deck. It shuts down top. It's super cheap. The Warping Whale, we saw how versatile it was, and it was good at countering a key spell in there. Other than that, I don't expect a whole lot of changes out of Chris. I'm not super familiar with this matchup.
I'm not sure many people are, honestly.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Chris knows what he's doing, and he's going to be quite proficient with this deck. So I'm interested to see how he decides to sideboard in this matchup.
Yeah, the Needle and the Warping Whale, I think, are pretty obvious pieces. Does he have to go much deeper than that? I think we'll find out. That's for sure. As these players do get ready here for game number 2, we will discuss Game Night, the very popular promotion with Star City Games. We want to thank each and every one of you who does support and play at Game Night, be it a player or a tournament organizer in the month of November. And you'll see on our suit jackets here this weekend, we've got the wonderful Mole Warden for the month of December.
Mole Warden, yeah.
It's Fintuition for December.
Oh, sure.
That is a play on
Intuition.
Very well done. Good job.
A goodie that doesn't really see any play anymore.
It's actually kind of sad. I like that card.
It's a powerful card.
Now, our final one here for January for next year, that is our newest one. We unveiled this actually on Monday. It is Squeaky Cheeky Acorn Breaker.
Okay.
Which is a play off of
Kiki Jiki. Mirror Breaker. I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to get the other
No,
one.
I got it.
Okay. Now, I was told earlier today that this is a chipmunk, not a squirrel. I was corrected harshly by you and the rest of the director team.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Now, how can you tell the difference between a chipmunk and a squirrel?
I mean, he's breaking acorns. He's got to be a chipmunk.
Do squirrels not eat acorns?
No, they do, but they're not very good at breaking them. You don't hang out with a whole lot of squirrels or chipmunks, do you?
I don't know.
See, this is the problem with your cloistered upbringing.
This is on me.
If you just spent a little more time, out with the people, the chipmunks of the world, you would know this.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do want to apologize and tell everyone to go to go.starcitygames.com/game-night to get more information about that very awesome program. So we're going to take a look now as these players get ready here for game number 2. First, we're going to take a look at From the Ashes because some people might not be too familiar with that card. And this one, I actually think could come in this matchup. Destroy all non-basic lands. For each land destroyed this way, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched his or her library this way shuffles it. Quick basic land check from Chris's deck.
I can count it on no hands.
No hands necessary. Okay. It's pretty good to know.
Yeah, so there's a one-sided Armageddon.
Yeah, this actually could be a thing here. Like, it's slow.
It is slow, but we saw in the matchup, Chris kind of needed multiple waves of creatures. I think Matt's always going to get off one Terminus, maybe counter creature in there. He can give himself enough time to where if he resolves this spell, Chris probably isn't casting anything else for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Chris could come back from if it's a stable board and from the Ashes resolves, I would be shocked if he could come back and win that game. I have seen stranger things happen that have forced me to do a cartwheel in the past, but I would be shocked if he could win.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. Don't really want to undersell the fact that Chalice was unbelievable in that last game.
Yeah, I mean, Matt just ended up with so many cards stranded in his hand.
Does he have a top to start with this game? No, he's going to start with a Brainstorm. A Terminus, a Ponder, and a Swords to Plowshares. Those are a bunch of one-mana spells. Wear, Tear in hand, Jace in hand. I think quite clearly going to want to put the Terminus back on top. It looks like he's going to put the Ponder on top of that. There is another Brainstorm in hand here, a Plains. It's actually, I mean, it appears to me a pretty good hand that Matt is working with.
It's not a bad hand. I don't know why Matt felt the need to lead with Brainstorm on the main phase.
I was a little bit surprised by this as well.
Yeah, he can just wait to see what Chris does with his first turn and then use that information to sculpt his hand accordingly.
For Chris, he's going to think about his first turn a little bit. He does have a copy of Pithing Needle in hand that he could just play immediately on top. He also has an Ancient Tomb. He's going to take 2 and start off with that non-basic land. This is the Needle. I want to name Flooded Strand.
Oh, yeah? Just get him?
I want to teach him a lesson. Apparently, Chris does not want to do that. He's going to name Sensei's Divining Top.
That's the usual.
Maybe a bit of a better line.
How predictable, Chris. Come on.
Ponder here for Matthew Ling. He will take a look at the top 3. It's a Entreat the Angels, a Force of Will, and a Terminus. I feel a shuffle coming on. Yeah. I like a shuffle here. Now, you play blue cards, son.
Oh, yeah. Ponder, Brainstorm, these are just, they're not fair cards.
When you're pondering, how often do you shuffle? Do you like to shuffle with the Ponder? How does it make you feel?
Well, when I was playing Ponders, it was in the Storm deck.
Yeah.
You're looking for some very specific pieces.
Yeah.
So you actually do shuffle kind of often.
All right, so it doesn't bother you too much there?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the Storm deck plays so many redundant manipulation spells. Gitaxian Probe, Ponder, Brainstorm, Preordain. So, give it a shuffle. There's more good cards to draw in there.
It's an Eye of Ugin here for Chris, which is going to allow him to play a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. We'll see if this resolves. It is going to resolve. Trigger on the stack, Source of Plowshares. See, it's like Ancient Tomb did nothing at all.
Yep, didn't even matter.
Yeah. Matthew will draw a card from the Thought-Knot Seer trigger, and now Chris will get to take a look at the hand. He's going to write it down. We'll say it aloud. It's Terminus, a Force of Will, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, a Wear Tear, a Brainstorm, and a Snapcaster Mage.
This is a really good hand, but it doesn't have any lands to work with right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris just take a card like the Brainstorm and hope to choke his opponent out on lands. But if Matt can make even one more land drop, the Snapcaster Mage is there to flash back a Ponder or a Brainstorm and put him right back into it.
So Chris's hand right now, he does have 2 copies of Aether Hub, a Reality Smasher, a Warping Whale, and an Eldrazi Mimic that he's going to be able to play for free after this is done because of the Eye of Ugin. So if you're Chris and you know the cards in your hand, now obviously we don't know how Chris sideboarded, but you know the cards that are in your hand, are you still leaning towards that Brainstorm? Is maybe Force of Will of interest?
It could be, but I don't know, it's so tough. It feels like if Matt misses a land drop for a turn or 2, Chris is going to have this game.
Well, he's going to take Brainstorm. He'll play the Mimic post-combat thanks to the Eye of Ugin. And now we're going to head back over to Matthew Ling. Matt will draw a card. He's in search of lands. Ooh, boy. He drew that one a little too quick.
He did. Yeah, he doesn't look very happy with himself.
No, he does not. He drew that Terminus a little too good. Do you think Chris knows what he drew now?
He might be, quote, tipping his hands.
Yeah.
So I mean, Chris is aware of this Force of Will. So we'll see how he wants to bait out that card. I think Chris just drew a Chalice of the Void.
I believe so. Did not get a great look.
So the question is, does he want to?
Well, he's asking what Wear and Tear does.
Yep.
That's why, instead of calling over a judge and being secretive about it, he knows that he has it in his hand, which also means that Chris is kind of revealing that I drew an artifact that matters.
Sure.
So Here's a hub.
But yeah, the question for Chris, does he want to try to play the Chalice to potentially bait out the Force of Will? Does he want to play one of the Endless ones to bait out the Force of Will? Or are the Endless ones, being so big, going to be even better than the Reality Smasher later in the game?
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to go with the Smasher. This will be the Force of Will bait, I have to imagine.
And I think Matt's just forced to do it, forced to cast the Force of Will here. He's not going to have a great spot to play it later in the game.
Oh, here comes the Mimic just for 2. Now, keep in mind, the hand right now for Chris, Warping Wail, Chalice to the Void, and Aether Hub. So no other really large creatures just yet. I mean, he does get a draw step every turn, all that good stuff. So we'll see how that ends up.
Oh, that's a Warping Wail. Yes. I apologize.
It's okay.
I thought it was an Endless one.
Here's a Snapcaster Mage. That's going to trade with the Mimic.
Wow.
Well, I can see an argument for just getting the Mimic off the battlefield. I mean, I'd love for Snapcaster Mage to do more, but he's also just not working with a lot of lands.
Yeah, Matt's in this tight spot where in 2 or 3 turns, if I haven't drawn a land and I still have this Snapcaster Mage in my hand, am I just going to be so upset with myself that I didn't trade when I could have?
Another hub will bring along another energy. So 2 energy here for Chris if he ever does draw any colored spells. But Chris does not have a lot to do this turn outside of playing a Chalice of the Void, and now the question is, what does he want to play it for? We saw it be very effective on 1 in the last game. The Pithing Needle is doing a great job of taking care of top, but I think we might just see it for 1 yet again, and it looks like we will. So that's good. Now we're going to head over to Matthew, who's going to draw Ponder. Nice.
Perfect timing. Sometimes things just work out the way they're supposed to, you know? Like
another hub here for Chris is a 3rd energy. This is a Smasher.
That's a good one.
Yes, it is. That's going to come across here for 5. Warping Wail, the last card here in VanMeter's hand. Ling is going to need to solve this problem real quick. Polluted Delta is okay. I mean, it's a land, so you can't be unhappy.
Well, he has a Vendilion Click. There's a good chance he's going to click himself. You know, put a card on the bottom, draw another card. He's got some 1-drops he can't cast. He's got some expensive cards he can't cast.
Looks like he's going to sacrifice Polluted Delta right now. I'm trying to think of just how much the drawing of the Terminus, not playing it on the Eldrazi Mimic, he would still have a Snapcaster Mage to work with. The Snapcaster Mage would still be pretty bad.
Yes.
Because I think the way that things would have played out here, he would have just drawn the land, the Chalice would have resolved. So if he wanted to flash back a Ponder or Brainstorm, that just would have never really occurred. So this isn't the end of the world. We're going to take a look at the Wear Tear, take care of the Chalice right now. And now here's a Ponder. So now the 1-mana spells can start working here.
I like this line.
Yeah. I mean, he's under the gun a little bit, but he's trying to catch back up. Top 3. Polluted Delta is 1. Swords of Plowshare is 2. Polluted Delta is 3. Swords is good here.
Yeah, that's a goodie.
It'll take 2 cards to take care of Reality Smasher, of course, but it's good here. Now to note, I don't want to draw the swords.
No, yeah. If you're keeping these cards, you want to draw the land this turn because you can't cast the swords anyway.
Yep.
Having the sword on top of your deck means it's protected from Thought-Knot Seers.
Yep. Thought-Knot Seer was not Chris's draw, which is fortunate for Matthew, but this could have been bad news. Eldrazi Temple was the draw. He'll play that. 2, 3, 4. He's only 1 mana away from actually activating Ivug, and that's totally in play here.
It's always funny when these things that you don't consider very often come into play.
Yeah, that's likely to happen now. Ling draws and places Polluted Delta. He's got another Delta on top of the deck. We know about the Swords of Plowshares in hand. It looks like he's going to do this right now. Trigger from the Reality Smasher. He's going to have to discard a card. He will discard a Terminus to make sure that the Smasher is going to die. Smasher is going to get exiled.
And Chris is lucky here that he's gaining all that life because, you know, 23, now he doesn't have to worry about just dying to nothing. Not really a lot of a drawback on Swords to Plowshares.
Warping Whale. Are we going Scions?
What are we doing? We're deploying a 1/1?
All right, so I'm totally good with this because that's mana number 7 for Eye of Ugin.
Yes. So he's going to get to attack.
This might just be another land, too. I think he drew Corrupted Crossroads. Actually, drew Caracas.
Ooh, Caracas.
That actually might be better than Corrupted Crossroads. In we go with the Scion. Ling going to fall down to 7, and the activation of Eye of Ugin is online.
Yeah, and Vendilion Click happens to be a legend.
It is a legend. Polluted Delta will be sacrificed. Ling going to fall a little bit lower here.
Oh, this is in response to the attack.
Yeah, so there might be a block here, or at least an attempt at a block, as damage has not gone through yet. So Ling is at 7, potentially going down to 6. 3 mana. There's Click. Matthew would like to target himself.
Yeah, he's got to show the card that he ends up putting on the bottom.
Yes, he does. Going to reveal Terminus. Bottoms up. New card.
This is what we hope for when we do coverage, right? Just the Chris finally got to all of those lands to activate the Eye of Ugin. Kablooey, kabow!
Chris, you don't want to read that. No, you don't want to read that. So Chris is actually known for having best of SCG Live moments that are horrible for him.
Yeah.
This is the third.
This is spectacular.
From the ashes.
But it's two-sided, you know, that this card's fair.
It is symmetrical.
Matt is going to lose two lands.
He will.
But, you know, he'll probably have a couple basics
he may
in his deck to go search for.
He may. So the nice part about this, it's got a lot of text, so Chris has to sit here and really take it in about what's happening to him right now.
I don't think that a lot of text even...
He's got to take it all in. So he is going to search for an Eldrazi. Now, like I said, I have seen games won from worse spots. If he wins this one, I will be shocked. Oh, the Plan is Endless one. It's the cheapest of the bunch.
Yeah, he's got to get something that he can get on the board if he draws any land.
Yep.
But this is just... this is just a delicious treat.
See, Matthew, demonstrating that the card is symmetrical.
Yeah.
So he will lose his very expensive Tundra and Volcanic Island.
Yeah.
To search up less expensive basic lands.
White bordered basic lands.
Correct, which should be a bannable offense. We're still working on that here on the SCG Tour. Basic Island.
But this is exactly what we talked about. Matt was able to control the game just enough. You know,
barely.
Yeah, a couple of Swords to Plowshares in there, countering a spell. And then on the empty board, he drew the Haymaker.
Yep.
And we love it.
VanMeter will take a draw. Cavernous Souls, so 1/1.
Oh, try to counter this.
Woo, baby!
Try to counter this.
Here we go.
Can't do it.
7 points to go. Ling will draw. That's a lot better than a 1/1. That is really good against a 1/1.
And I like Matt considering his options here.
I would cast the Jace. That's what I would do. We will get him a bigger die. We'll get you a big die. Jace deserves a die bigger than the red die. Here's a Brainstorm.
Oh man.
That's a pretty good game. VanMeter will draw. He is slightly outclassed now.
And I like this dilemma too.
Yeah, where to attack?
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
Listen, I got you down to 7. He really wants to get Matt down to 5 and then have the potential for a Reality Smasher should win the game, but it's such a ridiculous situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not attacking Jace. Doesn't do anything, so VanMeter will gain a little bit of life. This is going to be a Ponder from Matthew. Terminus, Tundra, Sensei's Divining Top. Again, we know the top does nothing because of the needle.
That needle's still on the board.
Might have a little interest in some land here. But he's just going to shuffle away, so mystery card coming.
Shovel's pretty good. He can still brainstorm with the Jace. Lots of redraws.
Yep.
You know, I think he does want to hit a land drop this turn, but it's not a big deal if he doesn't.
Well, he found an island. That's not a bad start. I mean, we could actually see him just go to the Fate Seal.
Yeah, yeah.
Brainstorming maybe one or two more times might lock things up. Arid Mesa, Brainstorm, and a Sensei's Divining Top. But I think sooner than later, we're actually just going to see some Fate Sealing here from the Jace.
Yeah, I think all roads lead to Rome here. Yeah, like he's either going to generate so much card advantage that he's going to win from the Brainstorming Jace, or he can just start Fate Sealing and win that way. And
Hub will bring along the fourth energy.
yeah, I mean, after that one-sided Armageddon, Chris still had those energy to work with, so it wasn't.
Now, to note,
You know.
I don't love the use of the Swords of Plowshares by Matt last turn on the 1/1 Endless one.
Okay.
Because, yes, he's going to be brainstorming and doing his thing a little bit here, but there is a possibility that a Reality Smasher steals this game. Ling just went down to 5.
Sure.
Like, do I find it to be likely, especially now that he's drawn Monastery Mentor? No.
Yeah.
But if the draws did not cooperate, where he's just kind of, you know, brainstorming around, up and down, all that stuff, and then VanMeter found a Reality Smasher, which would have been uncounterable, he could have stole that one. That said, Matthew Ling's going to win game number 2 over Chris VanMeter. Miracles, Jessica Eldrazi getting ready for a third and final game, but more importantly, CVM, third best of SCG Live moment coming. That is not in your favor.
We like that. We like that.
This will be, at some point, a good thing has to happen to Chris VanMeter on camera, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have no horse in this race.
Of course not.
But we do like to see spectacular plays, and Chris just always seems to be on the receiving end. So thank you, Chris.
Taking it very well.
Sure, I mean, the match isn't over. It's going to be on the play for this third game.
Yes, which is a great place to be with the all 2-mana land deck, more or less.
Yes. And now he's aware of the one-sided Armageddon, so he can side in all of his basic lands.
That's totally true. Totally true. You do see the sideboards here for each player. Don't think much will change. The needle is going to stay for Chris, most likely. Additional copy of Warping Whale, really good at countering from the ashes, so I think he's going to want to leave all of those in. You think anything else changes for him?
I don't. I think his game plan is pretty well set.
On Matthew's side, we saw From the Ashes, we saw Wear Tear, we saw Monastery Mentor. Those are all cards that you thought were going to come in, and they did show up and play a role. So these players are going to sideboard shuffle for game number 3. Got about 17, 18 minutes left here. So in the meantime, we are going to talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter, which is your source for Magic the Gathering news, where you can get the latest on the SCG Tour. You can watch the SCG Tour match of the week. Might actually be this match, if it's any indication.
Who is that smiling face?
That could be anybody in the top right-hand corner there. But the smiley face you're actually talking about is Todd Anderson, who did win the Modern Classic.
Okay.
Question. Who's got a great smile. You can receive exclusive deck lists and advice from Ryan Overturf this month, our broadcast partner. You can catch up on all the event results and read exclusive cardboard crack comic. Best of all, it is free to sign up for. Go.starcitygames.com/newsletter. Get signed up. You're on the internet all day anyway, and you might as well get some free cool stuff. As we get ready here for game number 3 between CVM and Matthew Ling, I want to learn a little bit more about CVM. Outside of the fact that he always gets humiliated on camera, he does do some winning occasionally as well. 19 open top 8s and 5 open wins.
That's a lot.
He does some nice work, does the 34-year-old, who actually currently resides back in the Seattle area. Top-rated chess player in grade school, ran 2 successful Kickstarters, and played college at Whitworth College, played college football in Whitworth College in Spokane, Washington. So CVM back to actually playing more Magic now, which is good to see.
And college football is no joke.
It's probably really hard.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care if it's D1, D2.
No,
D3.
it does not matter. Yeah. It is a real job. And he recently got married.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him.
And he just won an Open a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. It's all working.
Yeah. It's all coming up CVM.
And
that's for sure.
He just got one-sided Armageddon.
I think he forgot to search for his basics.
I mean, there was no better time for that card to roll off the top of Matt's deck.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Best possible time.
Yeah.
Really something, I must say. Looks like Matt's going to take a mulligan here. Chris is going to keep his opening hand. So we'll see what Matthew Ling is able to find here. 6 cards for the Miracles player.
Yeah, Overturf in your newsletter. He was talking up Blue-Red Delver.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deck we haven't seen yet, but I'm sure we'll see some Delver variant before the weekend's over.
Yeah,
probably several Delver variants.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're going to see more than one. VanMeter with an Eldrazi Temple into an Endless one. That's a 2-2 as we're underway here in game number 3.
But this is why Legacy's the best format.
Legacy is an absolute blast. No argument there. A Tundra and maybe a top. Could be a Swords. It'll be a top. Pass that turn back over to CVM. He'll draw. Drew a copy of Urborg. Oh, it was in the sideboard that he brought that in. Interesting.
It's just another mana source. It's possible he brings it in if he brings in more Drowner of Hopes.
Okay.
Obviously, it combos well with Eye of Ugin.
Yes, very true. Very true.
So, you know, if he's going a little bit bigger, playing some more expensive cards, that might be the reason that it came in.
Tundra. Swords. Goodbye, Endless one. A little bit of life here for CVM, up to 22.
Yeah, and I would have liked to see Matt, again, just play a spell on his opponent's turn.
Yeah, he might get himself into a little bit of trouble now. Here's a hub.
Well, maybe not, but there's just no rush. It's not like Chris is going to draw a counterspell for that card.
There's a Thorn of Amethyst. We'll take a look at that one. This is part of the game plan of the Eldrazi. Make the spells cost a little bit more, or at least try to. See, Matt's going to spin his top. Take a look at a Ponder, another top, and a Swords. Thorn appears to be in, and now we're going to head back over to Matt. He will draw a Ponder. Some lands in hand, Polluted Delta and Flooded Strand. Now here is a 2-mana Ponder, given the Thorn.
That's an expensive Ponder.
A Swords, an Arid Mesa, and a top.
This is one that I can see keeping. The Sword is obviously very good. The Arid Mesa is very so-so. But with you know, a top already in play, just being able to shuffle your deck again, look at 3 fresh cards at some point is good. And if you don't want to draw the second top, obviously you're fetching before you draw that card.
Cavern of Souls is going to allow an uncounterable Reality Smasher. In for 5 is going to come VanMeter. Can't play that Sword with only 1 mana, Matt, so he's going to fall down to 13. CVM's going to pass the turn. In the meantime, Ling is going to spin that top. Take a look at an Arid Mesa, a Force of Will, and a Sensei's Divining Top. The draw for the turn now will be a Force of Will. This is a Flooded Strand. That is a Swords of Plowshares. Gonna have to pay for that discard trigger. There we go. Polluted Delta is the discard for the Reality Smasher. Force plus Jason hand here for Ling with an active top and a fetch lance. Pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah. He might have wanted to keep that land instead of the Force of Will. There's already Cavern of Souls on his opponent's side of the board. And, I mean, do you really want to Force of Will away that Jace?
Nah, not so much. I think Jace is kind of the avenue of victory right now.
But he knows he has another land on top of his deck with the top, so it's kind of a wash. I mean, the Force of Will does leave him that option to use it if he feels he has to.
Chris going to play an Eldrazi Obligator off of the Cavern of Souls. Matt is going to sacrifice this fetch land in response. We'll see what land he wants to search up here. He's already got red mana thanks to the Volcanic Island. Looks like he might be searching up another Volcanic. But he's going to go with a basic island.
Yeah, one of the big draws for the Miracles player playing this deck is all the basics that you get to play. You just have that insulation against Wasteland. You know, obviously Blood Moon's not very good against you, and these are haymakers in Legacy that blow out some of the other decks.
Forest, Terminus,
Those are some good ones.
Yeah, those are nice to be staring you back in the face. Thorn will make those a little bit worse.
Yep.
But he's going to keep Terminus on top. Obligator will come across for 3, given that it does have haste. Ling is going to fall down to 9. VanMeter will play an Urborg. He'll pass that turn back. We're going to go over to Ling. Terminus is the draw. It's going to cost a little bit extra, given the Thorn. VanMeter is going to let that resolve.
Yeah, it looks like Chris is doing a really good job of patiently pacing his spells so he doesn't get blown out by 2 for once.
Pithing Needle the draw.
That's a good one, too.
Yeah.
It's going to cost 2 to cast.
He will play a Needle. Now, an interesting card that Chris actually has his hand right now is Dismember. Not going to do a lot.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that one still in his deck.
I think he may have brought it back in because he saw Monastery Mentor.
The Monastery Mentor.
But I'm not in love with it.
Matt deciding here. How important is this top? I think it's quite important.
Yeah, so does he. Jeez. Gonna force removing Chase. All right. Ling will draw. Entreat them angels. An angel.
I think Matt could have been a little more tricky here.
Think so?
Last turn he had the option of drawing that entreat with the top and casting it when his opponent attacked with the Obligator. Now we know that Chris has that Dismember in his hand. It probably wouldn't have worked out, but it would have been an option where he could have left. If he's going to deploy the Angel anyway, he could have left the Terminus on top of his deck for a different threat.
Thought Not Seer was the draw for Chris. He'll play that immediately. 2 Force of Wills and a Ponder. This isn't Matthew Ling's upkeep. He'll draw. It'll be an expensive Ponder, a 2-mana one. Yeah, he'll have to pay. Yep, Chris is already on it. You got to pay 2 for that, given the Thorn. There we are. 2 forces and what else? Plains, easy shuffle.
Yep.
You see some of the appeal to this Eldrazi deck. It does a nice job of kind of choking your resources with Thorn and Chalice, and then the cards that it's trying to kill you with are all absurdly powerful.
Yeah, I mean, the old deck that tried to employ this strategy was the Mud style deck, but their pieces were a lot clunkier. It felt more like a combo deck that had to come together just right. Mm-hmm. And this deck just feels so much more streamlined. It gets on the board just a little bit faster, and then finishes off the opponent quite quick.
Corrupted Crossroads. After the attack, pass the turn back. A Terminus, a Council's Judgment, and the Sensei's Divine. Top of the cards Matthew Ling is looking at now. The Ponder in his hand might be useful.
Yeah, these are all important ones. He ended up with 2 different removal spells here, and he's wondering what order he wants to play them in.
Now keep in mind, the Council's Judgment will be 4 mana. The Terminus will be 2, and he's going to play the Terminus. This will go to the bottom of the deck. Ling will draw a card from the Thought Not Seer. There we go. And now here's a Ponder. Top, Delta, I believe another
Yep.
Another top.
Lots of tops.
Well, it sure seems like Miracles has a hard time with this deck. There's a Delta, which is a reshuffle. Pass the turn back.
And Matt's, once he uses fetch, he's leaving himself at 3 life, which means an Obligator is an instant kill. Mm-hmm. The Reality Smasher is the instant kill.
Displacer if it lives for a turn now.
Yep.
VanMeter with an All Is Dust and I believe a land in hand. Ling does fall down to 3 from the Delta activation. Now he'll spin. Well, he found a Mentor.
All His Dust is good against that one.
Yep.
but is pretty expensive to cast.
All right, there's Mentor.
Yeah, I think Chris is actually pretty far away from casting that.
I don't think too far.
Okay, he's 2 mana land in his hand.
Yeah. Ancient
8?
Tomb.
Okay, then he, yeah.
Yeah, it will cost 8 because of the Thorn.
Yes. And kind of in the back of Chris's mind has to be, you know, that from the ashes that he saw last game. He's so close, you know?
It does feel a lot like last game, where if Matthew draws it, it's probably lights out. We might see a Mimic here. Yep. Like this play.
Yeah.
There is All Is Dust. Now remember, it is a tribal sorcery, Eldrazi, so you can actually use the temple. We'll take a look at Eldrazi. We'll take a look at Eldrazi Temple too.
I see. I was not aware.
Yeah. Eldrazi spells or activate abilities of colorless Eldrazi. So Chris just kind of cashed in his All His Dust, which he's had for some time now. Spinning at the top, there's a Brainstorm up there, along with an Arid Mesa and a Polluted Delta.
All right. Eldrazi spell.
Yeah, crazy, huh? Brainstorm, the draw. Remember, it'll cost 2 because of the Thorn. But if he wants to go to Council's Judgment, that'll cost 4. And the clock is certainly becoming a factor in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible Matt just leaves himself in a situation where he can only lose or draw. He just won't have enough time to close out the game.
There's Council's Judgment. It's going to take care of the Mimic. That's going to get exiled.
What did Chris vote for?
I'll have to ask him after. Any haste creature will do it. That one, not so much. Also, Eye of Ugin.
Yeah, Eye of Ugin would be a big draw.
So now if you're Matthew Ling, you're trying to fade some draw steps and try to close out this game. He's going to untap. He'll draw a card. Will he play a 2-mana Brainstorm? He will. So 3 cards coming here for Ling. A Mesa, a Brainstorm, a Top. None of those are great outside of the Brainstorm.
Yep, but he can do it all again.
Yep. To the graveyard with the Brainstorm. The land is the Delta. He'll sacrifice the Delta. Fall down to 2, yes. See what land he wants to search up, and most importantly, give himself a reshuffle for the Brainstorm in his hand and the Sensei's Divining Top that is on the battlefield. Tundra is the land of choice. And now,
spin the top.
we spin it. We find a Wear Tear, a Strand, and a Swords to Plowshares. Pass the turn. Swords on top to defend himself. Pretty good time to have Swords on top of your deck. Reality Smasher was the draw. It's an uncountable Reality Smasher, but Matthew Ling does have the answer in Swords to Plowshares. Attack step, yes. Draw a card. Swords. Swords. With a Brainstorm. Smasher down. VanMeter gains life. Chris, he's kind of committed to playing the land now anyway. Might as well just play it. Yep. Play an Ancient Tomb. Say go. Ling, top. It's 2 mana. Pass. VanMeter, haste creature. Warping Whale.
Ooh, a little 1/1s.
Okay, that'll play. Wear Tear, 2 Flooded Strands.
Ooh.
He's going to draw Wear Tear, pass the turn back. I wasn't sure if he was going to draw Strand and crack it. Chris, he found Eye of Ugin. That might do it. You figured he would find one eventually.
Yeah, and he has so much mana in play. He's going to be able to search and deploy a threat here.
Yep. Actually has enough to search for Reality Smasher and cast it if he wants to, but he's going to get Eldrazi Obligator, which will also work just fine. And through the Cavern of Souls, it will be uncounterable. He'll play it. There'll be triggers and all that jazz for the Obligator, but most importantly, it's about getting this onto the battlefield and attacking for the W. Top 3 cards here, 2 Flooded Strands, Mystery card, a Sensei's Divining Top, And that is going to do it. Chris VanMeter is going to win this match over Matthew Ling at 2-1. Jeskai Eldrazi will take care of Miracles. And for CVM, it's a 2-0 start here in Baltimore with a pretty unique deck.
Well,